Hi, Dr. Rozina. Welcome to the Genetic Genius podcast. I am absolutely thrilled to have you as a guest today to talk all about stress and finding your joy.
Thank you so much. It is an opportunity, and I'm so happy and grateful to be part of this message.
Oh, great. Yeah, me too. Great gratitude. We're going to be talking a lot about gratitude today, as well as we're moving into the end of 21 and moving into 2022. We are also grateful for many things, especially to be alive, right? Yes. So before we dive deep into talking about stress, which is a huge subject, let's first just learn a little bit about you and what you do, who you are, where you live. I love that you live in Seattle because I love that area, but also what is your passion? I'd love for you to tell your story in that aspect.
What gets me up in the morning is that feeling that I could make a difference in people's life. We would be talking about a little bit later about the gratitude practice and how it started in my life. But one of the things I say is 3GT and LFT, three good things that happened since yesterday. And LFT is things that you look forward to. And one of the things I usually write is helped 10 patients feel better.
I love that. Yeah. What you can hear the passion and heartfelt gratitude and joy in the way that you talk about. That's the
story. We make a joke in our culture and we say, no. So how much do you want to hear?
Yes, we only have an hour.
Yeah. Why don't you ask me some specific questions so I can give a little.
Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you. How about what prompted you to really go down this path of helping people deal with stress? Because was there like an event that happened in your life that really was like the trigger, or you woke up one day like, I just can't wait to help people with their stress?
Right. No, there was a turning point event in my life. So as we were talking earlier, I have been a psychiatrist for the last 26 years now. And as a doctor, we have very busy, stressful, demanding, and many of us are like very perfectionist and type A personality. So stress is not something that was new to me, but there was a time in 2004 when the stress level was very high, in the sense that I was trying to move our practice. The practice was new. We got a new place. We moved. There was a lot of financial stress, physical stress going on. And one day when I was driving back from work, I was feeling a little dizzy because of my allergies and stuff. But while driving just 5 minutes from my home, zoned out. And I started thinking, oh, tomorrow is my day off. I would need to really relax. What would I like to do? Should I go to the lake and sit over there and read a book? That's very relaxing for me. Or should I do a tub bath? That is relaxing for me. And these thoughts are coming to my mind. And suddenly I hear a loud sound and this bang. And then I came jerk out and I realized that I was hit. And I look at my hand and my hand was like this, a chair on the steering wheel.
Oh, wow.
And it's, oh my God, what happened? What happened? And so somebody came and said, are you okay? And I said, oh, what happened? Oh, look at my hand. And he said, you were hit by a car and we have called the police. They're on the way. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's happening? And I could not move my hand and I could not pick up the phone, which was on the other side. It had slipped on the other side and the airbag had inflated. And so long story short, that was the most stressful event of my life that kind of flipped me. After that, of course, after the surgery and hand pain and going through, as doctors, you're writing a lot of charts and writing a lot of prescriptions, and you realize that you can't do that if your right hand is broken. And not only that, you also realize that you can't zip up your pants or you cannot open the food jars. I remember my husband opening the jars before he would go to work so I can actually during the day. So like simple things became very hard. I had a 5-year-old kid at that time, taking care of him. Of course, like everything came to a big halt. And so I was very stressed and I was crying a lot. And some about a month later after the incident and surgery and everything, my husband took me to visit the family, to change of environment and stuff. Of course, it was also very painful to go through those airport doors or wearing those jacket with the hand broken. It was really hard to wear the jacket in the cold. But anyways, so one day I was helped in the shower at my relative's place. And the shower was upstairs and the family was gathered downstairs and they were talking and somebody was supposed to come and help me after I was done. And so I got done and I called them, but they could not hear my voice downstairs and I could not change by myself. So I could not come out of the shower. shower. So I got stuck in the shower and felt that height of helplessness that you feel. So I went inside the shower and I turned on the shower and then I started banging the wall of shower.
Wow.
And then I had the epiphany, banging the wall of shower with my left hand. What if I would have lost my left hand too? What if I would have lost my mind or my eyes or my life or my kid who was 5-year-old at that time, and he was in car with me for the whole week before that day because he was sick and I was taking him everywhere. And that day he was well enough that I dropped him at the daycare before going to work. And so what if he was in the car with me? So then my mind shifted from what was missing to what was still there. And then a few days later, I was sitting in my bed and my friend had given me a journal, and I could not sleep because I'm a right-sided sleeper. And after surgery, they had put all these nails around my hand.
Oh,
So I
wow.
could not sleep. Many times I was sitting awake. And so that day was the first day when I pulled my journal and I started writing with my left hand.
I love that.
The first thing I wrote was, I'm grateful for my left hand and my eyes because I could see the greenery outside the window. And I was grateful for my husband who was sleeping next to me and ability to endure this pain.
Yeah.
And that was 16 years back. Until now, my day doesn't start without a gratitude practice. And after a few years of going through the pain and learning these tools that I used to teach others, but didn't realize that I had to apply it in my life, I started applying. And as I started getting better, I realized that I need to take these techniques, these tools that are helping me outside the office. So the people like me who are like the professional, busy leaders who go through stressful life day after day, if I can teach them these tools, they don't have to suffer unnecessarily. I was fortunate to learn all these things because I was in the field. I really wanted to help help people like me outside the field so that they can also learn these tools and not suffer unnecessarily. And so that's when the stress became a major focus of study and teaching in my.
Wow, that's so powerful, Dr. Rosina. It makes such a difference when we have that actual life circumstance. And you had such a huge shift. I love that explanation too of your epiphany, because the right hand is that masculine and how we do things, and the left hand is our feminine and how we receive. And so then you were like receiving all this gratitude, and it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. And I can see how your passion is so vibrant when it comes to helping people with stress, because you were like in that situation and you realized I can't live like this. And so having that passion to help others, especially like you said, helping other professionals, because like you said, we do have stressful lives sometimes, and we taking a step back and looking at it with gratitude makes such a difference for sure. And okay, so let's talk about stress, because I think that's it's such a common word. It's thrown around like just a glass of milk. It's so common. But what's the difference can you tell us the difference between like acute stress and chronic stress, and how those can affect someone in different?
Yeah. And I would add the differentiation from traumatic stress that also develops post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's confusing many times because of this word being such a common word. Let's start with the post-traumatic stress disorder. As the word says, that it is post, after traumatic. So if there's a traumatic stress that happened, like in my situation, it was a car accident, was a traumatic stress that happened. And so the symptoms that develops, if it meets certain criteria, then it is called a disorder. So post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a clinical diagnosis where there are severe symptoms. I got into car accident, but a lot of people go through many different traumatic events, losing somebody, getting raped, getting abused. There are so many different traumatic events that may happen in people's life, being part of a war situation or a different kind of traumatic situation. I treat a lot of injured workers who get injured at work, falling down from the ladder or places like that. So anyways, so then people develop post-traumatic stress disorder. So that is stress. The second stress is a stress of daily living. You're stuck in the traffic, your stress level is up. Yeah, there is a deadline you have to meet. The stress level goes up. I needed to be here at 3:00 for your interview. I was driving and I was stressing out because the person before this, we were having technical issues. issues. And so the time was getting extended. And I said, no, I need to leave right now. And so my stress level was going up. So everyday stress keeps on building up little by little, and people don't realize how it is affecting your mind and your body. And so what happens is, in acute stress or traumatic stress, big event happen and suddenly your body goes into reactivity mode. And with the daily stress, it's build up slowly. But the response of the body is like the blood vessels start shrinking. Actually, what happens is your body has a normal stress response system. So whenever your mind experiences a stressful situation, it releases certain chemicals in the body. Most prominent, you may have heard about cortisol. Cortisol level goes up. It prepares your body to respond to this. In general, if you read in books and stuff, you'll say, oh, okay, we come from the caveman era, when if there's a lion in front of you, you either see the lion and you either freeze or you run or you fight. So it is a fight, flight, or freeze. You used to have three response in the body. In nowadays, if you're driving the car and somebody comes in front of you, you have that fight, flight, or freeze response. And so when you are in the right state of mind, your mind would work fine. Your leg would automatically go on the brake. You would stop the car. And then once the crisis is over, the person is passed, you would be gradually be able to come back to your baseline. But if you notice that when you had that reaction, it was not only your leg that went on your brake, but your heart rate went up, your muscles got tight, your mind got really focused, because you really needed to deal with this acute stressful situation. So the whole body goes into this stress reactivity mode. When you are in the best or optimum mind and body health, gradually the body comes down back to baseline,
able to relax.
But if your body has been in constant reactivity, one after the other, and it is losing that ability to come back to the baseline for lack of time between the events or for lack of awareness, then the body stays in that tight reactive mode. So when you are in constantly tight reactive mode, what would happen? If the muscles are tight constantly, they would get tired. Blood vessels are really tight, your blood pressure would go up. If your mind is really intensely trying to respond to the event, you'll become more irritable.
Yeah, you're focused.
Yeah. If you are constantly thinking to resolve all the issues, then your sleep disturbed.
Right.
If a cortisol is constantly high, your adrenals would start dysfunction. So then every part of the body gets started getting affected. There's this books and encyclopedias about the stress, so I can go on and on. So let me stop and give you the chance what questions are coming to your mind that I can specifically answer. But in general, that is what the stress is. Daily stress versus acute traumatic stress, and how the buildup can affect the body, both if it's a daily stressor versus an acute stressor.
That was great, Dr. Rozina. What a wonderful explanation. And I love how you talked about that the PTSD, that post-traumatic stress disorder, because people are experiencing that now, even with the pandemic, because they've been in this state of chronic stress that they weren't used to. But now it's lasting for a lot longer than anyone expected. And so that people are having PTSD even from COVID. And have you seen in your practice this, so quote unquote, like surge of patients that have been having more stress than usual?
Yes. And let me just also share this new thing, that the PTSD as a diagnosis was part of the DSM, but chronic PTSD was not part. And so that just got accepted in ICD-9, ICD-10. So then it would become a diagnosis in starting January 2022. Chronic stress is when these traumatic events continue to happen on a long-term basis rather than just one event. It is continuously happening, and then it creates different type of clinical disorder. And also that is also, you may have noticed that not everybody gets the similar reaction to the traumatic event.
Right. Everybody has an individual reaction to stress, right?
Some people become like really stressed, and then they are able to let go and move on in the life. And some people develop it and get stuck. It's not their mistake, but it's just a combination of all the things that they're going through, their biological, their body wise, mentally, their experience, their childhood, their thinking, their work environment. So environment and nurturing and genetics all combined together can make a person more susceptible to the stress reactivity or not. And that is one of the whole purpose of Stress to Joy program, is to give people tools to change reactivity to the stressors in life.
Yeah, I love that how you talk about that piece of the environment, childhood especially. We're all have grown up in a specific environment and taught to deal with stress from our parents. And so if we're in a stressful situation or childhood, then when we grow up and we're trying to deal with stress, we don't know how. We weren't taught how to deal with the stress.
Because sometimes it's not openly talked about, but also you're seeing how other people are dealing with stress. So if your parents were, how they were dealing with the stress, or people around you dealing with stress. And so sometimes it's automatic learned experience, but then when you apply certain things, it doesn't work, then it develops other things. And many times some of the reactions that are actually protective at a certain point in time, if it is not modified with awareness, then it can become a disability, or something that was adaptive becomes maladaptive. For example, when you have, let's say, stomach pain, you're having very severe stomach pain, you learn to dissociate yourself or separate yourself, your consciousness, from the pain, so it becomes more bearable.
Yeah.
So in that moment, that dissociation is an adaptive response. It's a protective response. But if you don't become aware of it and you don't just associate with stomach, then you start dissociating at other places and other times, and then it gets out of your control. And then it becomes a dissociative disorder or part of your severe PTSD when you are dissociating without awareness, and then it is causing problems. So that was helpful at a particular time is no more helpful. Right. I think that's why it's really important for people to become aware of how they're responding or reacting to certain situations, and so not to repeat those situations in inappropriate circumstances.
That's so true. Yeah, I see that a lot with my chronic disease patients in that autoimmune category, especially. It's their body has been talking to them in so many different ways. And so they have a communication breakdown. I heard the message over and over again. And finally, I think I'm just going to tune that message out. And so that's that disassociation. And just like you said, when we're in that place of pain, we have to have some disassociation so that we can live, but we have to recognize it to be able to move through and to learn from it. So let's talk about, you mentioned a little bit about the brain, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about how stress affects the nervous system and specifically the brain. And of course, we can have stress from pain, stress from, like you said, from PTSD, but how is that specifically? Let's talk a little bit like sciencey, so to speak, about what's happening in the body when that stress reaction is happening. I would love for you to talk about how stress is affecting the nervous system and specifically the brain. And let's focus that really on how stress is affecting our mood. And we're in this kind of epidemic now of anxiety, depression, worry. How is stress impacting that specifically from the brain and neurological perspective?
Right. So as I was starting to talk a little earlier about stress causing release of cortisol, and so as so there is what we call HPA axis. Okay. Mm-hmm. So HPA axis is the hypothalamus in the brain produces a stimulating hormone that affects your pituitary gland in the brain that stimulates a certain chemical, and that gives the signal to your adrenal gland, which is a small gland on top of your kidneys, to release cortisol. And so when the cortisol is really high, then it gives the signal to your brain to decrease that stimulation. So it's a cycle. Okay. So we call it HPA axis. And so when the stress level is too high for either of the reasons that we talked earlier, and most prominently when continuous stress is going on for a long period of time and the cortisol has been released frequently. And in addition to cortisol, there are many other chemicals that adrenals are releasing, okay, including the sex hormones and DHEA and other things. So all these hormones release is dependent on this brain-body feedback loop called axis. And so when a person is in chronic stress, this system gets affected. And so when the system is not working fine, like say your cortisol is supposed to be really high level in the morning and gradually it should go down. So in the morning, you could have high energy to deal with the stressors, and as the evening comes on, your cortisol level goes down, so your brain activity goes down, so then you're able to sleep better.
You hope you can go to bed.
When this system is all messed up and cortisol is coming too high, sometimes it gets flipped. So people are like lethargic in the morning because the cortisol level is not high enough, and then in the evening when it's supposed to be low, it goes up, and because it's up, now you can't sleep well. When this cortisol level is up, then it gives the message to the brain that there's too much cortisol, so it doesn't give the feedback, it doesn't give the signal for the adrenals to release the cortisol early in the morning. So this whole system is upside down. So scientifically talking, just know that is the mind is not a separate from the body.
It's all connected in there.
So the brain is as much part of the body. So brain is the hardware and the mind is the software that runs the hardware of both the brain and
that's a great comparison. Very true.
And then when we talk about, let's say, stress and depression. So I specialize in treatment of I specialize in advanced treatment for depression. When people try psychotherapy and medication and natural therapies, and if things are not working, then we have advanced treatment strategies like we use TMS, which is MRI-based treatment to stimulate part of the brain which is not functioning. The kind of neurons are sleeping, so we wake them up. So we use MRI-based treatment, or we use some advanced treatment, ketamine, so it's called Spravato and stuff. And then I am also an integrative psychiatrist, so I go into the root causes of depression. What is causing the depression? And so many times the root causes may lie into their stomach problems because there's a gut-brain connection. So whatever happens in your stomach can also affect your brain. And so as part of my treatment practice that focuses on these advanced treatment, I see that both stress increases the symptoms of both mind and body, and the symptoms increase the health that causes the symptoms worsening. So let's say when I am treating a patient with depression, but if we don't address their stressors and how they're responding to those stressors, how they're thinking about those stressors, the depression doesn't get better.
Totally.
Then if you don't treat the depression, which is making a person feel really negative and down and low energy, then their ability to deal with day-to-day stressor, whereas like it could be work demands or home demands or family demands, their ability to deal with it also gets, so it's again chicken or egg phenomena.
Right.
One leads to the other leads back. There is a lot of symptom overlap. So I have started actually, when it comes to the work stress, I like to use the word burnout.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's a big one.
And so as the stress keeps on building up, and if you do not take the precautions and the steps to overcome the increase in stress, then you reach the point of the burnout. Burnout is still not clinical depression.
Clinical word, burnout.
But it still zaps you of your passion to do the work that you want to do. It zaps you of your ability to focus and enjoy. And your question was, how is the stress connected with the mood? I explained to you how the stress makes it stressful thinking. You can call it stressful thinking, or how you're responding to issues can make depression worse, makes it harder to treat the depression and get better from it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Similarly, it goes with anxiety too. People, their stress increases to the point where it becomes anxiety. So in my mind, when I'm trying to decide who has the disorder and who it doesn't, it's not light switch phenomena. Either you have it or you don't have it. But it's a continuum. So I'm feeling stressed because I need to be here I'm trying to drive and I'm stuck in the traffic. And so my stress level is up. If I do not take the moment that it's okay and calm down, and if I let the stress build up, then it can become an anxiety attack, panic attack. And so, as I said, these are continuum. And so there's a certain point where it becomes dysfunctional, call it disorder.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I like how you brought that anxiety piece in, Dr. Rozina, because it's so important. I see both sides of that with my patients in my practice, just a lot, especially lately. I would say in the last year, I've seen a lot more of patients having that either they've cleared it because they've had the time to relax. They're like, I feel so much better. Or they've taken on a whole nother level of stress. Like you said, that kind of like continuum of chronic stress. And then it's created this other level that they hadn't experienced before, whether that's depression, because that separation from being with their family under quarantine, that has caused such a huge aspect. And especially I've seen that in my older patients who, having that community is like the only piece that they had. And they're like, oh, now I have nothing. I can't see anyone. I can't go out. And that's changing, of course, now, but really hard.
Yeah. Let me just bring another point over here. It's not just this. And I really feel that our health messages did some harm in calling the physical distancing social distancing.
I agree with that.
Social connectedness is such an important part of your happy habits. I'm right now working on my second book called Dodging Depression and Anxiety.
Oh, that's great. Congrats.
Thank you. So I divide, these are the tools for prevention. So I call them 5 lines of defense against depression. And so the first step is health promotion and resilience building. And so there are many studies showing different approaches that are known to prevent depression. They've also been studied. The 5 wellness tools that I'm going to talk in have also shown to decrease the depression and anxiety in people who are getting the treatment, but people who would practice these 5 wellness tools actually decrease their anxiety and depression by 38 to 42%. And so one of those wellness approaches are social connectedness. So that is a very important part of protection against depression. And so physical distancing made it harder for people to remain socially connected. So what we were recommending, or I still recommend, that you connect with at least 2 people every day, whether on phone or video chat or in person if possible, but connect with at least 2 adults every day outside your family. And
so important.
Yeah. What it does is it creates certain, from hormonal viewpoint, they say, okay, oxytocin is released in the body and brings you joy. So there's a lot of research going on in terms of how social connectedness helps. But like I have been advising my patients to call people because they are also isolated. Call your old friend that you haven't talked in 5 years and say, hey, how are you doing? Just getting that phone call of how you are doing, what it does is it also takes a little attention away from you, poor me, how you are doing.
Right, exactly.
And it creates that connection of care and compassion, really helps. And like you were saying, that COVID did not only cause physical distancing, but it also took away people's ability to do certain activities that was bringing movement in their life.
Enjoy.
So there is the second wellness tool that has been shown to help with both physical health too, but also mental health, is exercise. Closed, when the health clubs closed, people had a hard time doing exercise at home, and that kitchen to couch phenomena,
or hand to mouth phenomena. Right. Yes. There was I call it the COVID-15.
One of my patients said, yes, I walk, but only from couch to kitchen.
That is not enough. That is definitely not enough. Yeah. I started using an online exercise program because I work a lot or exercise a lot outside. It was cold and I didn't want to be in the park that I go to. You had to wear a mask, and I didn't want to wear a mask when I was exercising because I know that I need to have the fresh oxygen. So I was like, okay, then I found a great online program that really helped me to keep my body in shape, because I know how important it is to have a healthy exercise program.
Yeah. So that was like the social connectedness we talked about, and the exercise we talked about. There was nutrition is the third one. So a lot of times people start eating comfort food when they are stressed, and that makes not only your weight go up, but it also affects your brain, because
right, your dopamine.
And so too much sugar can make you more agitated, more irritable, and so that eating patterns got affected because of the loss of day structure that we were having. Every morning you wake up, you do this, and then so your eating times were more regulated and you're not constantly eating. But if you're at home and you're close to the kitchen and you're constantly eating, so again there's this connection between the stress eating and your mood. The fourth thing, so we talked about exercise, we talked about nutrition, and we talked about social connectedness. The fourth one is
sleep. Yep.
So other problem that happened during this phase was the Netflix binging.
What? That was a problem? Don't tell me that.
So a lot of people started watching a lot of TV or sitting in front of the computer. Not only that activates your brain too much, but if you are watching some kind of screen after certain time in the evening, then your brain's system that regulates sleep with the melatonin and histamine gets, and therefore I tell people to turn off their TV 1 hour before their sleep.
At least an hour.
And keep the sleep hour consistent. If 10 o'clock is your sleep time, turn off the TV or screen or phones at 9 o'clock. So your brain has time to gradually close the chapters that you have opened during the day, so it can actually get the restful sleep.
You can restore during the night.
I just heard somebody was sharing, one of the patients, he set up his Wi-Fi to turn off automatically at 10 o'clock.
That's great. Yeah, my phone, I have a little thing on my phone that tells me I have set my healthy bedtime, and it tells me like, hello, you told yourself this is when you're supposed to wind down. So I really like that reminder, because you can get charged up, especially right now we're having a later later conversation. So my mind is going to take longer to get myself into the mode of sleep. So that wind down time is so important, like you said, for your brain, for your body. And without that actual restorative sleep phase, we're not going to that state of healing, which is so important for the cells of our body. We have to have that restorative.
And the fifth one is mindfulness.
My favorite. They're all my favorites, but mindfulness definitely.
And it has shown in many studies to help both depression and anxiety and stress, in addition to pain and other problems. And so just practice of 10 minutes of mindfulness has shown to decrease the depression and anxiety in people with that. And it is also shown to help prevent. And that's why I think it becomes really important. So let me just repeat for our audience, 5 practices that I call healthy habits that would help you decrease your stress, anxiety, and depression. Good nutrition, and more important than what you are, it's very important what you eat, but how frequently you eat, and the schedule eating, rather than you eating one large meal at dinner time and one large meal in the morning time and not eating for 12 hours in between. That really messes things up. So you need to really stay with the natural cycle of the body. So good nutrition, good sleep, exercise, social connectedness, and mindfulness practice.
I love those healthy habits. And so true that just even practicing those 5 things, it would make someone have such a huge health shift. And because those are all the pillars that for those foundations, and not just related to decreasing stress and depression, but all kinds of other healthy habits can be instituted and because of that. Let's shift our conversation, because I think we could talk for a really long time, but I want to talk about your book because it's so important. So let's shift and talk about your best-selling book, From Stress to Joy. And what was the main inspiration for you behind writing the book? You've talked so much about your beautiful story and your practice, but what was that kind of like that went off for you when you were start writing the book? Because now you're writing another one too.
Yeah, as I was talking earlier, that when I was trying to apply these tools in my life, and as I started getting better, and I had this calling, that there are so many women in leadership. We focus on not only our own health. Many times we don't take care of our own health.
This is true. Take care of everyone else except us.
So we are in that role of taking care of. And so whether you are in a caring profession or in a leadership position where you are responsible for other people's welfare, and as a parent, you may be taking care of your kids or your family, your attention is pulled in many different directions. And so I realized that a lot of my friends who were in those situations, they had these approaches that were harming them. And if I was going through my recovery and I was applying these tools, I was trying to help them going through their issues. And so it happened so several times that I saw, okay, this person is having this issue, and I tried to share my tool with her, and it really helped. So then I tried another person while doing something else. And so it kept on popping up with my friends. I knew that with my patients, I can teach them in office when they come to see me, but I need to give them something in writing so they can apply, they can use. And so that's where kind of the impetus came. And let's say my friend she's a finance director in a big organization, and she was having so much stress of like long commute and long hours, and she was having skin problem because of the stress reactivity.
The gut connection there.
My another friend was having some overeating and weight problem. Another person was feeling really irritable. And so in the Stress to Joy book, I actually take the examples of my friends and take them from one step to the other. I came up with the formula, the modified formula. I call it mind CPR. Like when somebody is having physically they're collapsing, you give them the CPR to get them back to their functioning or live state. When somebody is having mind crisis, then you give them mind CPRs.
I love that.
So C is for calm, P is for processing what is coming from outside that is not in your control, and what are you doing in reaction that is in your control, recognizing what is in your circle of influence. And then R is responding, so responding with intention and wise mind. So it became a formula. In the book it is more extended, so it's 9 steps, but then since then I have condensed it for people to understand the concept. And then in the book I take my friends through each of the steps and teach them different tools tools. Okay, right now your body is really tight. Let's do the relaxation exercise. How to practice mindfulness, how to do the thought shifting, how to recognize that it is not coming, what is in your control and what is not in your control, how to change your thoughts from what is hurting you to what could help. Sometimes it's the event is the same, but the way you are thinking may make it helpful or hurtful thought.
Right. Yes. That tape loop, whether that's a positive tape loop or a negative tape loop, for sure. And
the R is for respond. And many times we have this knee-jerk reaction to things and we don't think about and we blurt out things and then we are regretting later on. So it represents thinking through before you react. So that is called response. In the world of stress management, there's this difference between reaction and response. Reaction is the knee-jerk reaction that you do it, in a split second. Somebody says something and you flip out on them or you bark back or do whatever. And worse, when you feel this surge of anger coming in, you recognize it and you say, excuse me, I need a glass of water. And you go and sit down and then you drink a glass of water. And when you do that, this whole process of just taking the break and going and sitting down and drinking water, what that does is it gives your brain those fresh, precious moments to think about what are you trying to achieve. And then if you think, okay, screaming is going to get you what you need, then you can
scream with intention. Right. Yeah. Have focus screaming. I like that. Okay. That's great. So
that is called Mind CPR, and
CPR
is Stress to Joy program. It's not just the book. The book is there. The guided gratitude journal is there that teaches people different ways of practicing, developing gratitude practice, coming directly from my own experiences and what I have taught my patients, and an online course where a person can learn different ways of how to apply these tools when they are feeling more irritable or they're overeating or their sleep is disturbed and different circumstances, and how to develop happiness habits, which I have 7 happiness habits that help people build resilience. So that's how the journey of going from stressfulness to joyfulness. It's a bridge. That's why it's called Stress to Joy.
Nice. I love that. And is it laid out like a workbook where you work through different exercises, or is it more like self-reflection where you're like, okay, there's this example and then I'm reflecting?
Yeah. So the book is more reflection. It does have some questions, and the book resources that people can get with the link in the book. It has a lot of those exercises laid out, diagrams and stuff like that. And the course is more like the worksheets and videos, instructions. So
okay, that makes sense.
The course is more interactive. Book is more reflection. It's just like very easy read. Many people came after the book was published. They said, I love the book, reading this book because it has large print. I can actually read it. People, as they kind of age, we don't want to read like tiny words. And so that's the easy read that people can read while they're on the plane for an hour, 2 hours, and they can finish reading the book. But then it can give them a lot of tools. And then if they want to go in more detail and apply the tools, the course builds up.
Oh, that makes total sense. Okay. So the book is like the precursor in like learning and self-reflecting about how you're handling your own stress and reading about stories and how people had that stress in their lives and then worked through it. But then the online course really helps you to like work through things in a much deeper level. I love that. And does it have meditations? You mentioned something about audio. Can you explain a little bit about that part of the online course?
Many times when I teach people, say, okay, practice mindfulness, it becomes really an abstract concept and it's hard. Although it's so simple, but it becomes hard because it's so simple. So what I did was, and I deal with people who are very busy. They're always busy.
We're all busy.
First thing I did was I changed my phrase of saying I'm busy. I say my life is very colorful. There's never a dull moment.
I love that. I'm going to use that one. Hashtag.
I'm saying the same thing, but my brain, it has a more helpful connotation to me, having all these opportunities rather than feeling busy, which is negative things that I teach in the book. But so what I did was for the course, I also created a bonus of 21 of these audio guides, which are like 1 minute mindfulness exercises.
That's great. That's all people have time for. That's perfect.
So they're like 3 minutes recording, and it teaches you explanation, exercise, and ending all within 3 minutes. That audio, and I created 21 of those because the course is 21-day course. And instead of making this hour-long lectures, which many courses do, created like these bite size. So all the videos are between 5 and 15 minutes. The worksheets are like 1 to 2 page worksheets, and then these 1 to 3 minutes audio guide, so that you watch the video in the morning, you do your worksheet, and then you practice that audio through the day. So you can master these tools by the end of 3 weeks. You're way ahead on this journey from stress.
Oh, great. I love that. And what a wonderful combination to have those things together in a way that people can put it into their stressful lives, because they're already stressed. I find that with a lot of my mindset programs myself is like the people coming in, they already have so much stress. You can't give them a lot to do. They won't do it. They're like, oh, thanks for that great program that I like didn't do because I didn't have the time to do it.
Sometimes they say stress management was more stressful.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to have something easy that they find lovely for an addition. And I like that 10 minutes, the little increments. So it's a great idea. And so the time that someone would need to spend to move from stress to joy sounds like it's a small amount of time every day. And then it's only a couple weeks too. So that's great, because then people can be already having those changes after those 21 days.
Yeah, sometimes it takes 21 days of practice to make some habit. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I picked up the 21 days and help people build up on previously learned. So by the time they finish it, they feel that they have all these armamentarium with them, because stressors are going to continue to come. Life going to present all the time. It's just that what I call, one of my initial tool is called emotional coping account. And basically everybody has a checking account, right? Do you have a checking account?
Of course.
Then there are deposits and the withdrawals. You understand this concept, right? So what would happen if your withdrawals are more than your deposits? What would happen?
You'd be stressed out. You go into the negatives.
And your checks are going to start bouncing, right?
Yeah, not good.
So similarly, everybody has their inner emotional coping account. All the stressors are like withdrawals.
Right.
All the things that help you feel uplifted and expanded and resilient are your deposits. And so the stressors or the challenges are going to continue to come. The withdrawals are, you may still have to always pay the rent or the car payment or insurances or whatever. So those withdrawals you can't stop, but then you can add the deposit, those mindfulness practices, those exercises, those self-care things. As the withdrawals are there, you increase the deposit so you can stay in the positive and not go in negative.
So important. Yeah. You want to have a slot machine that's giving you lots of coins to add into your account. Love that. Okay, Dr. Rozina, as we're wrapping up today, I have one last question, and then we're going to talk about all the ways people can find you, purchase your book, and sign up for the online course. So if you had an unlimited budget right now, what would you do to have the biggest impact on the health and welfare of the planet?
And so my clinic motto, like my mission, my calling is to help people live happier and healthier lives. I want to do that by helping them develop these tools, and I want to stop or end unnecessary stress, suffering, and suicide. And I do have a dream of create a foundation that would focus on this mental health education, as well as help people find the opportunities to improve the quality of their life, whether it be like going for education, vocational training, finding jobs, optimizing their health. So I have all these desires to, like you said, if I had unlimited budget. So there was a time when I played a game, and in that game I was getting $1,000 added to my account every day, and every day it was increasing. So one day it was $1,000, second day it was $2,000, third day it was $3,000. So I was having a lot of money in the game. So I created this pie chart where 1/4 was for my needs, and 1/4 was for my wants, and 1/4 was the saving, and 1/4 was for charity. And then as I was building the money, I developed an institute for education, prevention education, higher education. I built a library. So I developed this vocational training program. So those are the desires that come to my heart that I would continue to work. And at any level that I'm doing, I continue to do. When you, instead of giving fish to a person, if you teach them how to fish, then you make them them self-sustainable, right? Really, if I can give you that education, that ability to deal with day-to-day stressors, then you would be empowered to achieve your best potential in your life, prevent this burnout, prevent unnecessary suffering, and live your full life with health and happiness. And that would be a fulfillment of my vision, mission, and my desire.
I love that, Dr. Rozina. I think you have that vision, and I don't see that too far away in your future. I think you're going to achieve that one. So I can't wait to see it in your foundation. That's going to be great. Can you let the listeners know how they can find you, your website, how to follow you on social media, how they can purchase your book and your online course?
So all the programs are combined together on my website, drrozina.com. So that is DROZ as in ZINA.com. And if you go in the store section, you can see the book and online course and a lot of other tools that I share with people to optimize their mental well-being. And then I have tons of free stuff that is also on that website that you can utilize for, and that's the gift that I wanted to share with your audience today. One of the gifts that I would like to share is called 7-Day Gratitude Challenge. And the holidays are the wonderful time to practice, although any time is a good time to do the many challenges that I've seen outside. They would just have one task and then you keep on repeating the same thing. With the 7-Day Gratitude Challenge, you will get a 5 minutes video every day and a new challenge, new way of looking at the world more positively, looking at your life more positively. And so I feel this is one of the best ways to improve your positivity, which can also lead to improved productivity and performance, and develop this positivity. And this is a 7 days challenge where you'll get a 5 minutes video, a new challenge every day, and a lot of bonuses with it, including the chapter from my guided gratitude journal. And if somebody buys the journal from those links, I donate the whole money to the COVID funds. I cherish a couple of organizations. One is local and one is international. And I donate all funds from the purchase of the journal from there to the COVID fund.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing those beautiful gifts, Dr. Rozina. And we'll make sure we put all those links in the show notes so you can find easily how to start your 7-day gratitude challenge. I can't wait to do that. I love doing gratitudes, so I can't wait. Thanks again, Dr. Rozina, it was beautiful conversation. Thanks for helping us learn all about how to manage or handle stress and move it into a place of positivity and joy.
It's a blessing to be part of the message. And if it makes a difference in a single person's life, I would feel really accomplished in my journey. And I would love to hear from you. Every message that you send me telling me that you heard this message, that it made a difference in your life, gives me more joy, more power. That is my deposit. So I invite you to utilize all these tools that I've created and then get back with me and give me that deposit so that I can continue to give you more and spread this health and happiness throughout the world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.